His girlfriend's father, a powerful tycoon, saw nothing but a broke student. A nobody. Her cousin whispered a mortifying secret to her. He's so cheap, his underwear has a hole in it. But they didn't know Evan was living his life for the second time. They couldn't know that he remembered the impossible 7-1 World Cup final that would stun the globe. I'm betting it all on a 7-1 Germany victory, he declared, shoving his entire life savings across the counter. The odds? A staggering 150-1. This was his first move. The first brick in an empire built to shatter their arrogance. Because one day, at that same tycoon's dinner table, his daughter would silently push a bowl of rice past her father's hand and place it before Evan. A quiet declaration of war. A promise that the boy they once dismissed had come to claim everything. Evan's wails echoed through the living room. Mom, it's so hot. The living room doesn't have an air conditioner. How am I supposed to sleep? Am I even your real son? His mother, Hannah, however, remained unmoved, cracking sunflower seeds. Seeing that playing the victim was ineffective, Evan dug in his heels, resorting to pure shamelessness. I don't care. I'm sleeping in my bed. If you want Raina to sleep in my room, she can sleep in there with me. I'm not embarrassed. I don't care what people say. How did I raise such a shameless creature? Hannah smacked him on the back of the head, but ultimately relented, deciding that Evan's father would sleep on the floor. The brief battle for the sofa ended in Evan's victory. His little cousin, Raina Wong, a precocious preteen, finally let out a haughty sniff. I wouldn't want to sleep in your room anyway. Boys' rooms are stinky. Even my farts smell like roses. Evan's thick-skinned retort made Raina pinch her nose in disgust, but it also quickly closed the distance between them. This little cousin was smart and lively, but also at the peak of her rebellious phase, pestering Evan for this and that. He was annoyed to no end, but couldn't do anything about it. That night, exhausted from his cousin's torment, Evan lay in bed and, on a whim, sent a message to Claire. You asleep? Not this early. Why is it that if I don't message you first, you never message me? Evan probed, tossing a small pebble into that calm lake. Do friends have to talk every day? Claire's reply held a note of confusion. Of course they do, Evan answered without thinking. He told her that friends could talk about anything. Interests, the future, people they'd met, sights they'd seen. In the end, at Evan's suggestion, Claire agreed to go out with him and his elementary schooler cousin the next day. The following afternoon, under a tree at the entrance of the residential complex, Evan was about to have a mental breakdown from Raina's incessant chatter. Just as he was about to clamp a hand over her mouth, a black luxury van pulled up. The window rolled down, revealing Claire's cool and exquisite face. Raina's expression changed in a flash. One moment she was a tiny terror, the next she was a sweet little angel, whispering in Evan's ear, Brother Evan, that sister is so pretty. The atmosphere in the car became wonderfully strange thanks to Raina. The little chatterbox turned out to be the perfect icebreaker. Her rapid-fire questions managed to get the usually silent Claire to open up, and the two of them began to chat back and forth. Evan, sitting in the passenger seat, became the third wheel, listening to the laughter of the two girls behind him. At the pedestrian street, Evan pointed to a hair salon, saying he wanted to get a new haircut first. Raina immediately took Claire's hand, abandoning him. You go get your hair cut. The sister and I will go shopping. Evan walked into the salon helplessly. He was tired of the slightly dated, spiky hairstyle he saw in the mirror. When the barber picked up the clippers, Evan quickly stopped him and, drawing on memories from his past life, began to direct. Keep about an inch on the sides, make the fade natural. Leave the top and bangs about 5 inches long, cut it choppy, I want it to have some volume. 15 minutes later, when Evan had dried and styled his own hair, the young man in the mirror was transformed. The stylish, textured crop shed the last of his boyishness, giving his features a clean, sharp, and handsome look that made him shine. Meanwhile, in a women's clothing store, Claire watched in amazement as Raina masterfully bargained the price of a t-shirt from $100 down to $50. She never imagined that shopping could be done this way. What surprised her even more was that Raina bought the shirt to save money to buy new clothes for Evan. Raina stood on her tiptoes and whispered a shocking secret in Claire's ear. He's so cheap. This morning, I saw his underwear hanging on the balcony had a hole in it. Don't tell anyone. Boys have their pride. Underwear. With a hole in it. Those words struck Claire like an electric current. For a moment, a mortifyingly vivid image flashed through her mind, and her cheeks instantly burned a deep, beet red. When the freshly coiffed Evan found them, Claire still hadn't recovered from her embarrassment. She stared at the boy before her, with his sharp haircut and sunny smile, her gaze lingering on his face for a long time. It was only when he teased her that she abruptly looked away, lamely claiming the heat was making her ears red. The rest of the time, Evan was demoted to an attendant. Raina used the money she'd saved from her haggling to drag Claire along and pick out a new outfit for him. When Evan changed into a simple white t-shirt and black casual pants, his tall frame and clean-cut demeanor were even more pronounced. Raina proudly asked Claire what she thought. Claire just mumbled a barely audible but her eyes betrayed her true thoughts. Evan happily accepted his cousin's offering, and, tempted by Claire's promise of dinners on me tonight, willingly became their bag carrier, laden with the spoils of their shopping spree. In the evening, the setting sun painted the street a warm orange. Evan trudged behind the two girls, groaning with exhaustion. Raina, calling him useless, ran back and forcibly pulled him up from a bench. It seemed she felt all three of them should walk in unison. So, she took Evan's hand in one of hers, and then, just as naturally, took Claire's in the other. Under the setting sun, their three shadows stretched long. A tall, sharp-looking boy, a coolly beautiful girl, and a clever, quirky little girl, holding hands, walking side by side down the crowded street. The scene, like a warm and wonderfully strange family portrait, was quietly frozen in the twilight. The restaurant was warmly lit. Claire watched the two people across from her, who were eating as if they were starving, and finally couldn't help but laugh. Evan and Raina, the pair of cousins, were engaged in a chopstick battle over the last piece of sweet and sour pork, their complete lack of decorum so identical it was both infuriating and hilarious. "Evan, have some shame, will you?" she said, her voice carrying a fondness she didn't even notice. She was unaware that at a nearby table, a middle-aged man was quietly raising his phone, capturing this cozy scene and sending it to her father, Harrison Chun. The photo, like a stone dropped in a lake, instantly caused ripples miles away. Harrison immediately called Melinda, his tone full of accusation. However, Melinda's response was unexpected. She looked at the genuine smile on her daughter's face in the photo, a true happiness she hadn't seen in a long time. She retorted, "When you're with your daughter, has she ever smiled like that? If they were really dating, why would they bring a third wheel along?" A series of questions left Harrison speechless. Melinda's voice was calm but firm. "Don't forget your daughter is an adult now. With Evan around, I'll actually be more at ease with Claire going to university in Shanghai." This long-distance confrontation ended in Melinda's victory. She hung up, looking at the photo with a sense of relief. Her daughter was becoming more cheerful because of that boy, Evan. After dinner, it was already dark. Rachel's car was parked outside the lounge. Before getting out, Evan took out his phone and sent his number to Claire. While Claire was still confused, Evan had already opened the car door, leaned back in with a mischievous grin, and said, "If you can't sleep tonight, you can call me." With that, he turned and disappeared into the glow of the lounge entrance. Claire stared for a moment before it sank in. She clutched her phone and muttered under her breath, "Jerk." The next day, Evan was invited to Claire's house, ostensibly an invitation for Raina. When the black van entered the villa complex known as Red Leaf Manor, Evan truly came face to face with the gap between them. Wide asphalt roads were lined with green maple trees, and each villa stood like an independent castle. Raina's gasps of awe were endless, while Evan just silently watched the scenery, his heart in turmoil. The car stopped in front of a three-story villa where Claire was already waiting. The moment they stepped into the living room, they were hit by an air of luxury. A massive crystal chandelier hung from the high ceiling, casting brilliant light. Their feet sank into a plush, pure wool carpet, and the imported leather sofa exuded a faint, rich scent. Raina was like a country bumpkin in the big city, looking everywhere at once. Evan, however, was exceptionally calm. He simply sat on the sofa and surveyed his surroundings. The fridge held no simple popsicles, only Magnums and Häagen-Dazs. This small detail, more than the chandelier, made Evan feel the invisible chasm between them. Upstairs, Raina's eyes lit up with envy as she toured Claire's walk-in closet, which was the size of a boutique. Evan just sat quietly downstairs. A security camera in the corner of the living room transmitted the image of his calm profile to Melinda's phone. She had expected the boy to be nervous and insecure, but she couldn't see the raging fire in the depths of his calm eyes. He wasn't feeling inferior. He was recalibrating his life's goals to something higher and more distant than ever before. That evening, after leaving the palace-like house, Raina was still sighing in amazement in the car. Evan patted her head and smiled. "Don't be so impressed. If you work hard and make money, you can afford one too." But Raina asked shrewdly, "Brother Evan, you barely spoke to Sister Claire this afternoon. Is it because you feel the gap between you is too big?" Evan watched the scenery fly by, a meaningful smile on his lips. "No, I just feel like the goal I set before was a little too small. I need to aim higher now." That night, as soon as Evan arrived at the lounge, Nina handed him his salary from the last month, which included a bonus. Evan pocketed the cash and asked casually, "Where's the boss?" "She had something to do. She probably won't be in tonight," Nina said, her voice dropping as she wiped the counter. Seeing no other customers, she leaned in and whispered the secret she'd been holding. "You have to swear you won't tell anyone." Evan raised his hand and nodded solemnly. Nina sighed and began to speak softly. The boss had a fiancée she was with for 7 years. They were already engaged. But right before the wedding, there was a car accident. He didn't make it. Today is the anniversary of his death. Evan was stunned. He thought of the owner, Vivian Pei, with her teasing, carefree smile, and remembered the lonely figure he'd seen sitting outside late at night, watching the stars. He realized that beneath that playful mask, she was hiding such a heavy and tragic past. The story of the owner, Vivian Pei, weighed on Evan's heart like a heavy stone. The woman who always seemed so playful and carefree was carrying such a profound sorrow. The unpredictability of fate only strengthened Evan's resolve to seize every fleeting opportunity in this second life. The lounge was unusually busy that night. Evan and Zoe were spinning like tops between the tables. It wasn't until after 10:30 that he finally got a moment to breathe. Kevin's arrival was like a gust of wind, scattering the somber mood. He leaned in conspiratorially, his voice low. "Which one is your boss? The one you said was stacked." "The boss isn't here today. You're out of luck," Evan said, leaning against the bar. He thought to himself, it's a good thing she's not here. He didn't want anyone to disturb her peace and mourning today. The two of them drank and chatted, dreaming about college life. Kevin showed off his new phone, but Evan just smiled faintly. In his eyes, all phones from this era were just junk, on the verge of being obsolete. Just then, the last two customers in the lounge were about to leave, and their conversation struck Evan's memory like a bolt of lightning. "Germany is playing Brazil today. Who do you think will win?" "Has to be Brazil. Home field advantage. How could Germany compete?" "Germany. Brazil. The 2014 World Cup." Evan's pupils contracted, his heart pounding. He remembered the historic 7-1 match. The night that shocked football fans around the world. The legend of a drunk Dutchman who won a massive prize with a €200 bet. "Give me your scooter keys." Evan grabbed Kevin's arm, his grip so tight it startled him. "What are you doing?" "I'm going out for a bit. I'll be right back." He practically snatched the keys, and before his words had faded, he was already out the door. The scooter's tires screeched on the pavement. Evan's heart was hammering against his ribs. He had one thought. He had to make it. Fortunately, because of the World Cup, the lottery shop was staying open until midnight. He burst in, reeking of alcohol and panting, his voice hoarse. "Sir, can I still bet on the Germany-Brazil game?" "You can." "The score? 7-1. The owner looked up, staring at him like he was insane. "Kid, for a single-sided score over 5 goals, you can only bet on other. The odds are 150-1. 150-1. That was enough. Evan unhesitatingly pulled out all the cash he had on him. The $3,300 in wages Nina had just given him, still warm in his pocket. "I'm betting on Germany to beat Brazil, with a score of more than 5 goals for one side." $3,300? "Kid, you better be sure. Don't do anything reckless when you've been drinking." "I'm sure." Evan's eyes were firm. He took the thin slip of paper that held the hope for his first big win, carefully tucked it away, and vanished into the night. That night, Evan tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The next morning, he was woken by the frantic buzzing of his phone. It was an avalanche of messages from Kevin, marveling at the miracle of Germany's 7-1 victory over Brazil. Evan looked at the messages, a slow smile spreading across his face. He calmly got up, washed, put on a mask, and headed straight for the city's lottery center. The redemption process was surprisingly calm. No crowds, no gasps of awe, just a formulaic procedure. When his phone dinged with a notification from his bank, Evan looked at the long string of numbers and took a deep breath. Sunlight streamed through the window, and he felt light, filled with an unprecedented hope for the future. 400,000. This was the first lever he would use to move his world. At almost the same time, in the Red Leaf Manor villa, Claire was idly flipping through a comic book. On a whim, she logged into the creator backend of a music platform she hadn't visited in ages. The next second, she froze. The glaring 99+ notification icon seemed unreal. She clicked on her song, "If I Were Rich Someday," and saw comments pouring in like a flood. The song had already climbed to number 21 on the new music chart, earning her over $2,000 in royalties. She sat stunned in front of her computer, her first thought to tell Evan. They chatted about the unexpected success, and Evan joked about making her a superstar, which she flatly refused. With her social anxiety, she had never dreamed of being in the spotlight. The days passed in peace and anticipation. Evan smoothly passed the next part of his driving test and took Raina to Claire's house a couple more times. At the end of July, it was time for Raina to go home. Before leaving, the little girl spoke with the gravity of an adult. "Sister Claire is a very insecure girl. Brother Evan, you have to protect her when you're in college." After seeing his cousin off, Evan was cornered by his mother, who grilled him about who Sister Claire was, even threatening to make him bring her home. Evan, exasperated, had to explain, "Mom, we're just friends right now." Meanwhile, Claire was also being betrayed by Raina. As she lay on the sofa texting with her, Raina suddenly sent a candid photo of Evan smiling foolishly at his phone, with the caption, "Sister Claire, doesn't he look like an idiot?" Claire looked at the boy in the photo, smiling like a doofus, and couldn't help but smile herself, replying with a single word, "Yes." Just then, Raina sent another message, one that made Claire's heart, without any warning, skip a beat. "And I have a secret to tell you. My brother has your chat pinned to the top, like a special favorite contact. The August wind carried the last heat of summer and the scent of farewell. The air in the lounge seemed thicker than usual, the lights extra soft. It was Evan's last night. After work, Vivian didn't rush to close up as usual. Instead, she had the four of them sit around a table. She handed Evan a thick red envelope, saying it was his wages and a personal graduation gift from her. Evan tried to refuse, but was shut down by Nina's quip, "You're so shameless. What's there to be embarrassed about?" which drew a round of laughter. Evan poured 4 glasses of beer, raised his glass to toast their brief but precious time together, and to thank his boss and 2 sisters for their care. The clinking of glasses was crisp, but it couldn't hide the sadness of parting. After midnight, Vivian waved her hand. "All right, all good things must come to an end. Get lost." Evan stood up, opened his arms, and generously gave Zoe and Nina each a hug. Finally, he turned to Vivian and gave her a solid embrace, holding on until she laughingly punched his back. All right, stop acting like it's a life-or-death parting." Vivian rolled her eyes at him, but her own eyes were slightly red. Evan waved with a smile, took one last look at the lounge that held all his summer memories, and disappeared into the night. The next morning, Evan's call came to Claire's house. Melinda picked up the vibrating phone from the sofa. The caller ID read, "A dumb pig." She paused for a moment, then thought of Evan, and a smile touched her lips. She silently placed the phone back on the sofa just as Claire came downstairs. Evan had invited Claire to go shopping for school supplies that afternoon. When Claire came down and Melinda asked about it, not only did she not object, she even offered to have the driver take them. When Evan arrived at Red Leaf Manor and was about to wait at the gate as usual, Melinda actually came out to greet him, a warm smile on her face. "Evan, you're here?" The change in address from Xiaosu to Evan surprised both of them. What surprised them even more was that after learning Evan had his driver's license, Melinda actually handed him the car keys. "Don't worry, Auntie Jiang. I wouldn't do something I'm not confident about." Evan's confidence deepened the appreciation in Melinda's eyes. Before he left, she stopped him and invited him to have dinner with them that night, explaining that since Claire was leaving for Shanghai in a couple of days, the family wanted to get together. However, when Evan drove the car back to the villa that evening, he discovered that this so-called family also included the bank president who was so hostile towards him. Harrison Chen stood at the door in a sharp suit, his eyes like daggers on Evan. But Evan acted as if he didn't see him, even provocatively saying to Claire, "I'll head back then. We can chat tonight." "Evan, stay and have dinner with us." Melinda's voice from the doorway broke the stalemate. Her words stunned all 3 of them. That dinner was less a family meal and more a silent war. The atmosphere was oppressive. Harrison tried to dominate the conversation, arranging everything for his daughter's move to Shanghai, his words laced with unquestionable authority. Claire remained silent until she had quietly filled the first bowl with rice. That white porcelain bowl, like a white chess piece, was steadily passed over her father's outstretched hand and placed directly in front of Evan. Harrison's face turned ashen. He suppressed his anger and questioned his daughter about how she planned to get to the university. Melinda tried to mediate, suggesting various plans, but Claire rejected them all, stubbornly saying, "I can go by myself." Just as the standoff between father and daughter reached a freezing point, Evan, who had been focused on eating, meekly looked up and tentatively said, "Claire, how about you go to Shanghai with me? I can." Before he could finish, Claire immediately cut him off, her voice clear and resolute. "Okay." That one word was like a sledgehammer, completely shattering all of Harrison's defenses. He slammed his bowl on the table, got up, and sat on the sofa, clutching his chest and gasping for air. Seeing this, Evan quickly finished his food and got up to leave. Melinda insisted on driving him. As the car drove out of Red Leaf Manor into the quiet night, Melinda finally asked the crucial question. "Evan, I want to know, what exactly is the situation between you and my daughter right now?" Evan gripped the steering wheel, his eyes on the road, but his voice was sincere. "We were friends, now maybe we're good friends. I know what you're worried about. Before the last time I visited your home, I never felt inferior. But after that, I realized just how big the gap between your daughter and me is. But I want to say, I'm still young, and the future holds infinite possibilities. I will wait until I have the ability, the confidence, and the standing to talk about marriage with your daughter. Before that, we will only be good friends. Auntie, if I say this, can you be at ease?" Melinda was silent for a long time. She looked at the boy's determined profile, and the last of her defenses quietly crumbled. She smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "Evan, when you reach that day, I will support you." That night, Evan called Kevin, informing him of the change of plans. They would leave a day early. Kevin naturally cursed him out, but Evan just said lightly, "My girlfriend is coming with us on the 27th. Bullshit, I don't believe you." "It's true." Evan's tone was dead serious. "I swear, if I'm lying, I will never watch porn again." The line went silent for a moment before Kevin's voice came through, strained and resentful. "You son of a bitch. To make such a toxic oath." The night before leaving, Evan was packing in his room while his mother, Hannah, hovered around him, nagging endlessly about everything from the weather to his eating habits. Annoyed, Evan pushed her out of the room, but just as she turned to leave, he caught her face in his hands and planted a loud kiss on her forehead. "Good night, Mom. Love you." The door closed, shutting out his mother's nagging and the old days of the past 18 years. Tomorrow was a new journey. A mother's worry follows her child 1,000 miles. On the morning of his departure, the air was filled with the aroma of the hearty breakfast his mother had made, and her palpable anxiety. At 8 o'clock sharp, Kevin arrived, dragging a massive suitcase, his face alight with curiosity about the journey ahead and about Evan's mysterious girlfriend. Under his parents' reluctant gazes, Evan locked the door to his home and, with Kevin in tow, walked toward the new future. When Rachel's black luxury van pulled up to the gate, Kevin's neck stretched like a giraffe's. The door slid open, and he saw Claire sitting inside. The girl wore a light blue baseball cap, and the face beneath the brim was as exquisite as a painting. Her cool demeanor was like a lily in a secluded valley. In that moment, Kevin felt a heavy thud in his chest. He silently cursed Evan, that lucky son of a bitch. And so the journey began. Evan naturally became the leader of their small group. He dragged his own suitcase with one hand and effortlessly took Claire's 2 bags, one large and one small, with the other. He expertly navigated them through the crowded train station. At the ticket machine, he overheard 2 middle-aged men behind them loudly proclaiming that education was useless, their words dripping with contempt for university students. Evan expressionlessly collected their tickets, and just before leaving, his finger casually tapped the screen, quietly switching the interface to all English. The confused complaints that followed brought a faint, almost invisible smile to his lips. The high-speed train sped smoothly toward Shanghai. Evan sat in the middle, with an excited Kevin on one side and a pretending to be asleep Claire on the other. To fend off Kevin's interrogation, Evan spun a vivid tale of a romantic chance encounter by a lake on a dark and windy night, casting himself as a melancholic talent pursued by a beautiful woman. He embellished the story so much he almost believed it himself. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through his side. He let out a muffled grunt and turned to see Claire, still with her eyes closed, but the corners of her mouth under the cap were turned up in a slight smile. The hand that had just viciously twisted the soft flesh of his side was quietly retracting. 5 hours later, the train arrived in Shanghai. A concrete jungle greeted them, the subway packed with a surging tide of people. In the crowded car, a sudden jolt made Claire stumble. Evan reached out his arm, his voice low and steady. "Hold on to this." The girl hesitated for a moment, then rested her cool hand lightly on his arm. That steady support was the first anchor she had found in this unfamiliar city. The entrance to the Shanghai Conservatory of Music was adorned with banners welcoming new students. The campus was alive with an air of youth and art. Evan dragged the luggage, walking beside Claire. His powerful presence and the unspoken intimacy between them deterred any of the upperclassmen who might have wanted to offer help. He was like a lion patrolling his territory, silently shielding her from all unnecessary disturbances. Finally, they stood before the women's dormitory. Staring at the closed door and hearing the faint sounds of laughter from within, Claire hesitated. Social anxiety made her palms sweat. Evan saw her unease. He stopped and asked quietly, "Do you need me to go up with you?" He didn't rush her, just calmly stated the pros and cons. "If I go up, your roommates will definitely think I'm your boyfriend. That might save you a lot of trouble." Claire looked up, and the eyes under her cap were startlingly bright. She was silent for a moment, as if making a momentous decision, then said in a very low but clear voice, "But we have to set 3 rules. Go ahead. First, you're only allowed to pretend to be my boyfriend for today. Second, you're not allowed to say anything stupid later. Third," she took a deep breath, mustering all her courage, "if I message you, you have to reply instantly. And on weekends, you have to be available whenever I call." "I'll do my best." A smile bloomed in Evan's eyes. He picked up her suitcases and followed her upstairs. Standing at the dormitory door, Claire was still hesitating, but Evan had already reached out and knocked firmly. The door was opened by a short-haired girl. She froze for a second when she saw the beautiful couple at the door and asked, "Are you?" Evan's face broke into a gentle smile, tinged with a hint of possession. His hand, in that instant, closed decisively around Claire's cool, small one. He gently pulled her closer to his side, and, facing the short-haired girl, announced with a broad, confident smile, "I'm dropping my girlfriend off. Hey, would it be okay if I came in for a minute?" The warmth and strength from his hand sent Claire's heart into a frantic, wild rhythm. His hand, warm and strong, closed around hers, sending a jolt through Claire's entire body. The 3 girls in the dorm, Jessica, Victoria, and Sophia, watched with wide-eyed envy as Evan bustled about, making Claire's bed and wiping her desk. He handled the situation with an easy charm, laughing and joking as if he owned the place. Once everything was settled, Evan took Claire out to eat, the back of his t-shirt already soaked with sweat. In the restaurant, while devouring his food, he took out his phone and sent a detailed report to Melinda, Claire's mother, reassuring her about her daughter's situation with a comforting thoroughness. Do you want to get along with your 3 roommates as quickly as possible? Evan put down his phone, looking at Claire. The girl hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, now listen up. This is your boyfriend's specially customized guide to making friends in college. Evan's tone became serious. He precisely analyzed the personalities of her 3 roommates. Victoria was mature and had high standards. Jessica was enthusiastic and eager for romance. And Sophia was quiet and gentle, most similar to Claire herself. He predicted they would definitely go out for a group dinner that night and coach Claire on how to handle it, even suggesting she proactively tell them about her parents' divorce to earn their understanding and empathy. It will make them a little more forgiving of you, he explained. Claire listened, stunned. She had never imagined that human interaction could be dissected with such analytical precision. Evan concluded his guide with a supremely confident command. As for other classmates, if any guy approaches you, you must reject them immediately. Why? Because apart from me, no other guy is any good. Especially not guys in the arts. Every single one of them is either a player or a scumbag, Evan said with a completely straight face. After dinner, Evan walked Claire back to her dorm. He didn't leave right away but stood 100 meters away, watching her slightly nervous back before giving her a smiling wave. The girl saw he was still there, paused, and a sweet smile instantly blossomed on her face. She mimicked his wave before turning and walking into the building. Everything happened just as Evan had predicted. Back in her room, Claire found her roommates even more enthusiastic than she'd imagined. When they asked how she met her boyfriend, she recounted the story Evan had made up on the train, just changing the main character. When asked about her family, she gathered her courage and told them about her parents' divorce. As expected, the 3 roommates' expressions immediately shifted from curiosity to sympathy and understanding. That evening, Victoria did indeed suggest they all go out for barbecue. As Claire nodded in agreement, a storm of questions raged within her. How did Evan predict all of this? He had only met them once. How could he see through people so accurately? Could it be that he really could see the future? After settling Claire in, Evan spent the night in a hotel near her school. The next day, when he dragged his suitcase onto his own university campus, a wave of heat and youthful energy hit him. The campus was bustling with enthusiastic upperclassmen, welcoming the new students and clubs setting up booths, the air thick with excitement. Evan expertly completed all his registration procedures and, under the blazing sun, found his dorm room on the 2nd floor, room 201. The door was open, the room empty. He chose the top bunk by the window, dropped his luggage, and instead of unpacking, he started cleaning. Under the desk and in the drawers, he found the inheritance left by the previous occupant, piles of cigarette packs, a yellowed poster of a famous actress, and even an unopened condom. With a wry smile, he cleared out all the junk, leaving the dorm spotless. By the time he returned from the cafeteria, his 3 roommates had arrived. As Evan walked in, he broke the ice with a casual greeting in a mock Cantonese accent, and the atmosphere in the room immediately warmed up. The eldest, Liu Zhang, was from Shenzhen, a city known for its wealth. He had a laid-back vibe but was clearly generous and outgoing. The third, Frankie Yang, was a Shanghai local, a classic loudmouth who claimed to be a ladies' man but was actually a complete novice. The fourth, Thomas Lee, was from a rural province, thin and small, who spoke with a shy demeanor. Evan, by age, naturally became the 2nd oldest in the dorm. That evening, the 4 of them decided to go out for a celebratory meal. When Thomas heard this, his eyes flickered. He was wearing a t-shirt with a frayed collar, a stark contrast to the new clothes of the others. Evan noticed and was about to offer to pay when Leo clapped him on the back and declared, "Tonight's on me. Nobody's paying but me." "Leo, are you secretly a rich kid?" Frankie asked curiously. Leo shrugged. "Not really rich. More like a demolitionaire." He held up 3 fingers. "Not much, just 3 buildings." 3 buildings. Frankie's eyes went wide as saucers. The next second, he shamelessly hugged Leo's leg. "Holy crap. Dude. No. Father." The dorm erupted in laughter. Leo announced he would cover all their utility bills, on the one condition that he didn't have to clean. Evan looked at Frankie's fawning expression and laughed. "Were you a palace eunuch in your past life?" The 4 of them walked in a line towards the shopping plaza off campus. The mall was bright and crowded. Thomas trailed behind, his eyes filled with a mix of novelty and a hint of insecurity. At the barbecue restaurant, he saw the thin sheet of parchment paper on the grill and, having never eaten barbecue before, instinctively reached out to throw it away. The waitress saw this and was about to say something, but Evan stepped in first, smiling at her. "My roommate is a real clean freak. This paper has been sitting here for a while. We'd like a new one." A simple joke resolved the awkwardness and, like a warm hand, quietly supported Thomas's fragile self-esteem. Thomas shot Evan a grateful look, silently committing the moment to memory. At the dinner table, Frankie was holding court, describing the campus beauties with great enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Evan and Leo acted like professional connoisseurs, giving the girls' photos a score out of 9 and occasionally marveling at their similar tastes. Just then, a cute girl with pigtails from the next table tapped Evan on the shoulder, asking to borrow a tissue. Frankie's eyes nearly popped out of his head, wondering why he hadn't sat in that spot. What made him even more desperate was that when Evan returned from the restroom, the pigtail girl stood up and blocked his path, blushing as she explained she'd lost a dare and had to get his contact info. Under Frankie's fiery gaze, Evan calmly added her on his messaging app. Back at the table, Frankie's face was beet red. He growled through gritted teeth. "Evan, I'm gonna kill you." Before Evan could react, Leo explained for him. "You just stole his chance." Frankie's expression changed instantly. He leaned in, a huge grin on his face. "Dad, I was wrong. Quick, send me her contact." Back in the dorm, after showering, Evan lay on the narrow, hard bed, feeling a bit uncomfortable. He thought, Claire must be even more uncomfortable. So he dialed her number. She picked up instantly. "Asleep?" he asked. "I went to bed really late." Her voice was tinged with exhaustion. They talked about their respective roommates. Evan vividly described his demolitionaire, loudmouth poser, and honest guy, making Claire chuckle softly. He then nagged her like a worried father to take care of herself during the freshman training and not get too tired. Towards the end of the call, Evan's phone warned him of a low battery again. "Can't you just get a new phone?" Claire complained. I will. In a few days," Evan replied casually. After hanging up, Claire stared at the ceiling for a while. Then, she picked up her phone and dialed her mother, Melinda. Their conversation was brief, as usual. Melinda asked about her daughter's life at school, and Claire responded with a series of MMS, and it's fine. Just as Melinda was running out of things to say, Claire spoke up. "Mom, I want a new phone." Melinda immediately perked up. "Get one. Apple is about to release a new model. The moment it's out, Mom will order it for you." Claire was silent for a moment. Then her voice, though quiet, was firm. "Then, can you buy two?" The next morning, Evan and his 3 new roommates headed to the academic building for their first class meeting. The 4 of them, with their distinct personalities, felt like a small microcosm of society. Leo, the demolition heir from Shenzhen, was laid back yet generous, claiming he would go home to collect rent from his 3 buildings after graduation. Frankie, the Shanghai local, was a self-proclaimed ladies' man who was actually as innocent as a blank slate. Thomas, the introverted and honest guy from a rural province, wore a faded t-shirt and always had a hint of insecurity in his eyes. Evan, the second oldest by age, looked at his 3 endearing roommates with a renewed sense of anticipation for his upcoming college life. In the classroom, a student named Ethan Zhang was already acting like the class monitor, ordering people around, which drew scoffs from Frankie and Leo. When it was time for self-introductions, Ethan gave an impassioned speech, listing his glorious achievements as a class leader in high school. When it was Evan's turn, he lazily walked to the front and said concisely, "My name is Evan Su. I'm from Jiangzhou. My hobby is making money, and I might become the richest man in the country someday. Thank you." A moment of silence was followed by a thunderous roar of laughter. Even the student advisor, Tanya Su, who was standing at the door, couldn't help but smile, her gaze lingering on Evan for a few extra seconds. This Evan kid was interesting. That afternoon, the freshman boot camp officially began. Their instructor, a tough-as-nails man named Instructor Chung, immediately gave them a taste of what was to come. Standing at attention, marching in formation, under the blazing sun, sweat soaked through their camouflage uniforms. During a break, Evan was caught joking with Leo and was singled out by the instructor to carry water for the platoon. On his way back, he deliberately slowed down, claiming it was to buy more rest time for his classmates, which made Leo curse him from behind. When questioned by the instructor, he faked a sprained ankle and, with an innocent face, offered to take off his shoe for inspection. His cleverness was such that even the stern instructor Chung was helpless against him. The boot camp life was tedious and arduous. The only comfort was the daily text message exchanges with Claire during breaks. The small phone screen became a window connecting their 2 worlds. "Our instructor is an idiot. He made me platoon leader again today. Maybe he thinks you're outstanding. And what do you think? You're just a dumb pig. Running is so tiring. Drink more water. I really want to sleep." "Me too. Don't say me too again. It's only been 10 days. Why are people asking for my contact info every day? Is it my fault I'm handsome? Someone wanted to add me too. Did you let them?" "No. Dumb pig, look how pretty this leaf is. The clouds are so white today. This rock is heart-shaped. I miss you too." The days passed in a haze of sweat and longing. On September 12th, it was the day of the 10-kilometer trek. In the early morning, Evan, as the platoon leader, organized his team and led the finance department's first platoon on their way. With loud marching songs, the team snaked along the suburban paths like a long dragon. But as the sun climbed higher and the heat began to scorch the earth, everyone's steps grew heavy. After nearly 3 hours of walking, Many in the team were showing signs of exhaustion. With just 1 kilometer left to the school, a sudden cry came from the front of the line. Evan pushed through the crowd to see Thomas lying on the ground, pale and unconscious. Frankie, startled, shouted, "Thomas fainted." The team instantly halted. Instructor Chung ran over, and while having someone give Thomas some herbal medicine, he struggled with what to do. Should they rest here, or call a car to take him back to school? In that moment of hesitation, Evan had already made a decision. He squeezed the medicine into Thomas's mouth and said to the instructor, "Sir, he only had 2 steamed buns this morning. It might be more than just heat stroke." Without another word, he yelled to his roommates, "Leo, Frankie, give me a hand." He crouched down, and with their help, he hoisted Thomas's unconscious body onto his back. Evan gritted his teeth, his legs straining, and Jiananda stood up. He didn't say anything else, just turned towards the school and started running, carrying the frail body on his back. Leo and Frankie exchanged a look and immediately followed. Under the sun, the running figure cast a long shadow. The remaining students and instructor Chung watched them go, a mix of emotions in their hearts. In that moment, this boy, who was usually playful and always trying to be clever, seemed to radiate a light that was impossible to ignore. The final day of the freshman boot camp was a 10-kilometer trek. By the time the sun had climbed high enough to bake the track and release a pungent, rubbery smell, everyone's stamina was at its limit. A sudden cry erupted from the front of the line, followed by Frankie's shout. Thomas fainted. The procession ground to a halt. Instructor Chung ran over, looking at Thomas's pale, unconscious face, momentarily at a loss. In that instant of hesitation, Evan pushed through the crowd, poured a bottle of herbal medicine down Thomas's throat, and then shouted to his roommates, "Leo, Frankie, give me a hand." He crouched down, and with their help, heaved Thomas's frail body securely onto his own back. He gritted his teeth, his legs exploding with surprising strength as he struggled to his feet. He said nothing more, just faced the astonished crowd, turned towards the school, and began to run. The sight of his back, drenched in sweat that plastered the camouflage to his not-so-broad shoulders, seemed impossibly tall against the heat haze. The diagnosis at the clinic was just as Evan had expected: heat stroke, anemia, and low blood sugar. Under Leo and Frankie's care, Thomas soon came to. When he heard that Evan had carried him all the way back, the quiet boy's eyes instantly turned red. His lips trembled, but he couldn't manage to say a word of thanks. "It's fine, I know what you want to say. We're roommates, no need to be formal," Evan said, patting his shoulder and handing him the doctor's note for sick leave. This incident boosted Evan's reputation in the class to its peak. The next morning, at the closing ceremony, when the announcement came over the speakers that student Evan Su of Platoon 1406 had been named an outstanding cadet, he himself was stunned. Urged on by the entire student body, he dazedly ran up to the stage, shook hands, received his award, and posed for a photo. As he walked off the stage, the principal announced the official end of the boot camp. The field erupted in a deafening cheer as countless camouflage hats were thrown into the air like a flock of birds breaking free. "Finally, it's over," Leo shouted excitedly. "Tonight, my treat. We're having a feast." Evan laughingly agreed, but stepped aside to call Claire. The other end was noisy. Claire hung up and sent a message. "I'm in the cafeteria, it's too loud. I'll call you back later. I just wanted to tell you that my training is over. I'll come to your school to see you tomorrow morning." Evan typed back. The screen lit up with 3 short but weighty words. "I'll wait for you." An afternoon of deep sleep washed away 2 weeks of exhaustion. That evening, when Evan was woken by his ridiculously catchy ringtone, Leo also got a call from his good buddy. The 4 of them changed into clean clothes and prepared to go out. At the school gate, they met Leo's buddy, a short-haired girl named Quinn Yen. She had deep red hair, wore sunglasses, was dressed head to toe in designer brands, and had an air about her that clearly placed her in the same social circle as Leo. The 5 of them found a food stall in the snack street near the school. While ordering, Evan casually chatted with the owner about rent. When he heard that a simple storefront on this street cost nearly $20,000 a month, he grew thoughtful. Under his roommate's questioning, he half-jokingly revealed that he'd had a small windfall over the summer and was thinking of starting a small business in college. "Huh? Don't tell me you're a rich kid too." Frankie's eyes widened. "No, I just got lucky. Won a small lottery," Evan said, telling a casual lie. This topic, however, unexpectedly sparked something in Leo. He looked at Evan seriously and said, "Evan, if your business idea is good, maybe I can partner with you. Aren't you afraid your old man will cut off your allowance?" Leo glanced at Quinn beside him, put an arm around her shoulder, and said smugly, "Nope. My buddy here can support me." Quinn rolled her eyes but didn't move away, just laughingly cursed, "Get lost." The meal was a joyous affair. On the way back to the dorm, Evan received a message from his old friend Kevin, complaining about the lack of girls at his school. Evan turned down his invitation to hang out, telling him he had plans for tomorrow, which earned him a long string of "I want to murder you" texts. Meanwhile, In another part of Shanghai, in a dorm at the Conservatory of Music, Claire was picking up a package with her roommate Sophia. It was from her mother. When she signed for the heavy box and opened it back in her room, Sophia peeked inside, and a look of understanding dawned on her face. Inside the box lay 2 brand-new, unreleased flagship Apple phones. Don't tell me. One of them is for your boyfriend, right? Sophia asked in a low voice. His phone battery is terrible, and it's always lagging, so I just... Claire's voice grew quieter and quieter, her cheeks growing hotter. All right, no need to explain. I get it. Claire looked at the 2 new phone boxes in her hands, feeling both shy and full of anticipation. She didn't know how she would give this expensive gift to Evan tomorrow, nor did she know if he would flash that infuriating, smug smile of his when he received it. These last 2 weeks, why had they passed so slowly? At 7 the next morning, while the dorm still echoed with his roommates' curses at their alarms, Evan was already washed, dressed, and heading out with vigor. Like a seasoned city commuter, he took a bus, transferred to the subway, and navigated the morning rush hour for over an hour, finally arriving at the dorms of the Shanghai Conservatory of Music at 8:40. The very air on this campus seemed sweeter than elsewhere, filled with fair-skinned, beautiful, long-legged arts students. Evan kept his eyes straight ahead, walked directly to Claire's dorm, and dialed her number. The phone rang once before being hung up. He knew she was on her way down. In her room, Claire's heart had inexplicably sped up at the sound of the ring. She grabbed one of the unopened phone boxes, slipped on her shoes, and practically ran downstairs. But in the lobby, she forced herself to calm down, deliberately slowing her pace, pretending to walk out casually, even looking left and right as if searching for someone. Is this really necessary? It's only been 2 weeks. You haven't forgotten me already, have you? Evan's voice sounded beside her ear. Who are you? She retorted. Your boyfriend. Evan answered with righteous confidence. The girl was so annoyed she turned to walk away, but he grabbed her arm. What's wrong? I took 2 transfers to get here. His voice held a hint of grievance that instantly softened her. She looked him up and down, pursing her lips in disapproval. You're as tanned as an African. Then, she held out the phone box. For you. Evan unwrapped it and his eyes widened in surprise when he saw the brand new iPhone 6 inside. For me. I asked my mom to get me a new phone, and somehow they sent 2. Maybe the store made a mistake, Claire said, using a clumsy excuse to hide her true feelings. If it's a gift, just say so. Evan said, smiling as he saw through her lie. You're not going to take back something you've already given away, are you? He held the phone up high, dodging her attempts to snatch it back, and finally, amidst her annoyed shoves, he contentedly pocketed the phone. The 2 of them took the subway to the Bund. The wind from the Huangpu River brushed against their faces, carrying a salty, damp scent. Evan eagerly transferred the data from his old phone to the new one, an irrepressible, goofy grin on his face. He wasn't just happy about the new phone, but about having a girl who would put so much thought into him. He said to her with sincere gravity, "Thank you. It's just a phone." The girl turned her head away, but her lips secretly curved upwards. Evan took out his new phone, snapped a picture of the Bund, paired it with a photo of the phone itself, and posted it to his social media feed with the caption, "An Apple phone from my girlfriend." To avoid his family's nagging, he had specifically blocked his parents and relatives, but he forgot to block one person. "Oh crap, I forgot to block your mom," he exclaimed. Claire snatched the phone, and when she saw the post, her cheeks flushed bright red. Just as Evan was scrambling to delete it, a red notification popped up. He clicked on it, and in the list of likes, 3 words were displayed in stark clarity. Andy Jiang. Your mom. Already liked it. Evan said weakly, looking up to meet the girl's fiery gaze. While explaining to Melinda in a private message, he deleted the post. But Melinda simply replied, I know one of the phones was for you. Take good care of Claire. The storm subsided, but Claire's anger hadn't. She sat on a bench, sulking and ignoring him. Evan had to crouch in front of her, leaning his face close, and shamelessly said, How about you slap me a couple of times to feel better? Under the curious gazes of passers-by, Claire couldn't bring herself to do it, instead just reaching out and twisting a piece of flesh on his arm, hard. In the afternoon, they went to a movie and took pictures under the Oriental Pearl Tower. In the fading light of sunset, Evan watched Claire's light blue skirt flutter in the wind and thought she was more beautiful than all the magnificent architecture behind her. On the way back to her school, something unexpected happened. A small delivery truck braked hard in front of them. Less than a yard in front of it, an old man fell to the ground and started wailing in pain. It was an obvious scam. The driver, an honest-looking middle-aged man, turned pale with fear, at a loss for what to do. A crowd quickly gathered. Evan said to Claire, Wait for me, and, holding up his phone, strode forward. Sir, you've got some nerve, trying to pull a scam at your age? I've recorded everything. This driver clearly didn't hit you. Under the pointing fingers of the crowd and Evan's righteous words, the scammer eventually got up and scurried away. The truck driver excitedly shook Evan's hand, thanking him profusely and insisting on giving him 2 boxes of fruit. Evan couldn't refuse. and in their conversation, he picked up on a key piece of information. The driver transported goods from the Baoshan fruit wholesale market. He immediately added the driver's contact info and got the market's address. The seed of a business idea began to sprout in his mind. It was late by the time they got back to her school. Evan, carrying 2 heavy boxes of fruit, walked Claire to her dorm. Remember to eat and sleep on time. Message me if you need anything. He nagged like a mother hen. Wait a minute, Claire called out just as he was turning to leave. She ran back into her dorm and quickly came back down, shoving several packets of face masks into his hands. Her tone was a little bossy. Use one for half an hour every night before bed. If you're still this tan the next time you come over, then I'll. Yes, ma'am. Evan saluted with a grin. I promise I'll be paler next time. He waved with a smile and walked away. Claire watched his back until he disappeared around a corner, then muttered under her breath. What a dumb pig. She didn't know that on the second-floor balcony of her dorm, 3 heads were lined up, watching the sweet, ambiguous scene unfold below. The next morning, college life officially began. In the classroom for the first-year finance majors, almost everyone had arrived early, snagging seats in the front rows. Only Evan and Leo, both towering over 6 feet, naturally took their places in the back. Evan looked at Thomas Lee's thin back in the front row and sighed softly. He shouldn't have come to this university. For an ordinary person with no connections, it's too hard to get ahead in finance. Leo fell silent. This seemingly carefree demolition heir knew better than anyone that Evan was speaking the bloody truth. Their advisor, Tanya Sue, walked into the classroom and announced that it was time to elect class officers. The moment she finished, Ethan Zhang, the student who had been eagerly helping out since day one, confidently strode to the front. He delivered a well-prepared, passionate speech, covering everything from his personal resume to his vision for the future. It was logical and flawless. However, when Tanya asked if anyone else wanted to run, the entire class turned their eyes in unison to Evan in the back row. Urged on by his classmates and called out by the advisor, Evan had no choice but to lazily walk to the front. He didn't give a long speech. He just cleared his throat, looked at the 40-plus pairs of eyes before him, and flashed a roguishly handsome smile. I don't have a resume as impressive as Ethan's, and I can't promise what I'll do for you. I'll just say one thing. If, and I'm just saying if, I actually become the class president, then for the next 4 years, I've got your back. From now on, you stick with me. This statement, full of gangster-like bravado, instantly detonated the room. The students stared for a second, then burst into thunderous laughter. Even Tanya couldn't help but chuckle. Ethan stood to the side, his face ashen. His carefully crafted speech seemed so pale and powerless in the face of Evan's simple, blunt declaration. The voting result was no surprise. Evan was elected class president by an overwhelming majority. He even cast his own vote for Ethan, a gesture of magnanimity that made even Tanya look at him with new respect. After the election, Evan was called to Tanya's office for a talk, where he was assigned tasks like creating a class group chat and collecting student information. He returned to the classroom, delegated the tasks in a few brief sentences, and couldn't resist adding a joke at the end. Don't bother me on weekends unless it's important. I have dates. This drew another round of good-natured teasing. When the bell rang, Evan was draped by the arms of Leo and Frankie. Class president, what's for lunch? Frankie asked. What did you call me? Evan stopped, feigning seriousness. Evan, we're still in the academic building. What should you be calling me? Class president, Frankie asked hesitantly. Evan patted his shoulder in satisfaction and said to Leo with a grin, Hey, this kid's not so dumb after all. In the cafeteria, after finishing his meal, Evan pulled Leo towards the off-campus snack street. I told you I had a business idea. I figured it out now, he said in a low voice. We're opening a fruit shop. He showed Leo the wholesale fruit price list he had saved on his phone. The enormous profit margin made Leo's eyes widen. Evan clearly and logically analyzed the advantages of opening a fruit shop. Little competition, controllable costs, low barrier to entry, and most importantly, he had a supply channel. His words were filled with undeniable confidence and foresight. The two of them headed straight for the fruit shop Evan had been eyeing. Under the guise of buying a watermelon, Evan quickly noted down the prices of all the fruits in the store on his phone. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Next, they found a small savory crepe stand that was up for sale, its size perfect for their needs. Faced with an owner trying to jack up the price, Evan displayed a calm and shrewdness that defied his age. Boss, don't try to fool us just because we're young. I've already looked into the rent on this street. His single sentence punctured the owner's bluff. After a back-and-forth psychological battle and some haggling, Evan sealed the deal with a firm offer. $180,000. Take it or leave it. He had successfully negotiated the transfer fee down from $200,000 to his ideal price. When Evan paid a $2,000 deposit and walked out of the shop with a written agreement, Leo couldn't hold back any longer. He looked at Evan with a mixture of admiration and excitement, hesitated for a moment, then said directly, Evan, I want in on this fruit shop. Evan seemed to have expected it. He slung an arm around Leo's shoulder and smiled. Even with brothers, accounts must be clear. We each put in 100,000. We split the profits 60-40. How about it? Why 60-40? Leo retorted with a laugh. Do you know how to be a boss? Do you know how to run a fruit shop? Are you as popular as I am? Evan's 3 rapid-fire questions left Leo speechless. Finally, Evan patted his shoulder and added, in a small business like this, it's all about how you handle people.